Hey everyone, it's LaShonda from Labors of Love, and I would like to talk to you about the convenient narrative. So, all information that comes through our five senses has to be interpreted. And that's the part or the purpose of one of the parts of our brain to wrap a story around what's happening in our bodies. So when we see something, hear something, smell it, taste it, or feel it on our skin, it comes through the body and the brain interprets it and wraps a story around it. The story that the brain is wrapping around what we're experiencing is mostly based on experiences we've had in the past. If we haven't had a situation in the past that is reflective, mirrors, or similar to what we're experiencing, then the brain usually makes one up based on other data of what we have experienced. And that's what I want to talk about. Our brain is constantly making up stories. And so, if our brain is going to make up stories, I want to let us know that it's not going to work harder than it needs to give you a story. So, it will reach for the most convenient narrative. And there are a few things that make a narrative convenient. One could be the narrative that we have heard or seen or been given most of the time. Okay, so it won't have to reach far if we see a fur-legged animal with a four-legged furry animal with a tail that goes meow. Okay, because the narrative, the story that's been wrapped around what that is it's a cat. Bam, automatically it'll say cat, cat. Imagine a child who grows up in a home with a cat but hasn't seen any other animals. Well, they go visit a family member's house and that family member has a dog, but they've never seen a dog. Well, that child is more than likely going to look at that dog and call it a cat. Why? Because four-legged furry animals with a tail are called cats in this child's world. But then someone would probably say, oh no, sweetie, that's a dog. So a new experience expands the experience of that child or the understanding of that child. Now they begin to realize that a cat and a dog exist. Not all four-legged furry animals with a tail are cats. Well, that happens to us in so many areas of our lives. And so whatever we have been given the most and it's been repeated, that's a convenient narrative. So our brain might reach for that and it's like, this is what it is. Another way that a narrative can become convenient is if it is kind of the thing that's right in front of us. Okay, if it's right here in front of us, the brain will go, "Oh, this must be it. It's this is the narrative." Over the last couple of years, especially around March and April of 2020, if anyone sneezed, coughed, or felt anything in their body, one of the first thoughts that came up is, "Oh my God, do I have coronavirus?" Right? It's a thing. We all of a sudden didn't make space and room for the common cold, for allergies, and all these other things that have existed because COVID-19 and the coronavirus were right in front of us. Pretty much any ailment that we would experience would kind of evoke this convenient narrative of, oh my goodness, I wonder if this is COVID. Okay, so that's a convenient narrative. Another way that a narrative can be convenient is it's the last thing that happened, right? We're in proximity to when something happened. So you go out to a restaurant, you had a lovely time. You get in your car, and then all of a sudden your stomach starts doing something, and you're like, oh, it must have been that food we just ate. Right? It doesn't take into account many of the other things that it could be because the most recent thing that we did was we ate this food. And so the convenient narrative is that must be it. I want to share this because when we are interacting relationally, our brain is reaching and giving us convenient narratives all the time. It doesn't make it accurate, it makes it convenient. And because our brain doesn't like not knowing, if you actually think about it, if you have ever forgotten a person's name or the name of a place or something, we begin to make audibly painful noises. We might go, oh, what was her name? Oh, goodness, what was her name, right? That's our experience. It does not feel good to not be able to fill in the gap. Our brain doesn't like that, which is why it will give us whatever narrative it needs to give us to take that discomfort away. It doesn't mean that the narrative that our brain has given us is actually correct or accurate. It just means it's filling in the gaps. And I want to share this because as we engage in relationship, keep in mind that your brain is filling in gaps all the time. Someone you're in a relationship with makes a face and your brain gives you a reason. They thought what you said was stupid. That's not necessarily true. It's a story, it's a narrative though. And because it leaves us with a narrative, we'll take that story and we'll run with it. And here's the challenge. We engage with the story that our brain is making up more than we do what's actually happening. So many of our relationships go through stages of conflict because we're reacting to the story that our brain has made up and not actually what's happening in front of us. Now that we know that it is a thing, we can be self-aware. Let's pause. Be curious in your relationships. Is this actually what was said? Is this actually what's happening? Or is this the story my brain made up? It can be a fundamental, foundational, and very important step to improving our relationships.